Oh, yeah.
Oh god, just don't say anything. I don't even know where to begin. Cringe would be an understatement. We've known since October that Princess was coming to The Walking Dead Season 10, and with how eccentric and bizarre this character is, we knew it would definitely be memorable, and it would change The Walking Dead, but God, this was awful. To be fair, looking at the next episode, she does look like she kind of grows into the character a bit more, but this first appearance was beyond difficult to watch. My inner skeleton actually struggled to stay upright when I watched it. My soul came out of my body, and I got knocked back into the realm where you see dead people. I don't even want to show the rest of this scene, because I don't actually want it in my video. I mean, I've been cringy myself, but this takes the fucking piss. But in order to carry on with this video, I have to show you the rest of it. So let's do this one by one. Take a deep breath. We can get through it.
Oh my god!
Oh shit. I'm sorry for putting you through this again. Oh, Jesus. Oh, fuck off. Even Ezekiel is like, right, where's the water tower then? Because he was awful this episode too. But even he is surprised by this. He is the epitome of cringe, and he is blown away by it. Look at Eugene, he's like, oh, I hope it's not Stephanie. In today's video, we're going to be reviewing The Walking Dead Season 10, Episode 14. Look at the flowers. And of course, breaking down and explaining some things you might have missed, and some theories that I might have. I just want to start off by stating how much of a distaste I have for this episode. I actually was just so disappointed by so many decisions by the writers. Whether that's because it was bad or because of my simple creative difference is a different story. The episode wasn't bad by any means, but there's a lot of choices that the overall story makes that I disagree with and I think is extremely underwhelming. I'll start off with the Daryl and Negan scenes. I think the concept is really cool. It's so good. The fact that these two characters can coexist after everything that's happened is really, really cool. But I don't let cool concepts fool me on what we actually saw. I don't think we saw Daryl Dixon at all in this episode. We just saw Norman Reedus with Negan. I don't care what Daryl says about not liking Negan and everything he did. At the end of the day, he's sitting next to Negan like he would with Rick in an asymmetrical way, sharing a drink with him, whilst not actually having any confirmation to him, to this character, that Negan actually did kill Alpha. It's just so unlike Daryl. I don't care about this scene. If you go back to Season 6 with Daryl and Jesus, do you remember? Although Jesus saved Daryl, he was still hostile. He was still on guard because after all these years, that's what he's learned. That's what Daryl should be doing now. Especially with someone like Negan, who Daryl is known for not liking. I should make it very clear that Rick Grimes in the comics never forgave Negan, and Daryl in the show has even more reason not to forgive Negan. Even if Daryl says he doesn't forgive Negan, what we saw in this episode is he's forgiving Negan. I don't care if Negan saved him. Daryl saw nothing. He's always going to see Negan in the same light, and these scenes shouldn't have happened. Of course, I'm not going to pretend like I know more than the writers. The writers are the ones creating this. If they want Daryl to do this, then that's them, that's what they want, but we all know the character as viewers, and I think this was way too early for Daryl to even sit down with Negan. He should have waited for Carol, and then, once he sees that Carol has given the pass on it, then Daryl can maybe even look at Negan the same way. And I love Negan, he could do anything, and I'd still love him, but nah, I don't think these scenes should have happened at all. As cool as they were, like I said, the concept's amazing, but nah, I wasn't a fan of that at all. And that's my personal preference. Make sure you let me know what you think down below, of course. Onto something that I think was really, really well done was more of Beta's backstory. We found out his country singer name before the apocalypse was Half Moon. And so once Beta had found Alpha's head, he brought her with him. He has this psycho delusion that she is talking to him, or she was talking to him, to lead him to this place. This place was where Beta used to perform as Half Moon. He played one of his old records and had all of the walkers, all of his whisperer heard, rally in. It was his music that attracted them, and so he saw the meaning of his country singer name, Half Moon, as half of who he is. So whilst we know Beta's original mask is his friend, the other half that Gamma ripped off he replaced with half of Alpha's face. And so now he walks among the walkers with half of Alpha's face and half of his friends, giving more meaning to the name Half Moon. So that was done really well, and I'd say Beta's backstory is the finest thing about this episode, because apart from that, I don't think this episode was very good at all. I mean, for a start, just look at Beta. He looks so bad right now. I mean, I know the whole point is he's meant to wear Alpha's mask. There's very few ways you can make that cool. But how about just don't do it then? The whole point of Beta is to be scary, to be cool, to be fierce, and he's just not. He looks laughable. I think Beta's reaction to Alpha's death is really, really underwhelming and anticlimactic. I think it's a massive disappointment that he wasn't full of rage and shock when he saw this. He was just accepting of it, and he's created this delusion in the show that Alpha's head was talking to him, and he's allowed the death to become who he is, like we said, Half Moon. So he's not really using any anger like we thought Beta would. He hasn't unleashed himself. He's just accepted the idea of Alpha's death and became it. But does that mean it's bad if it was just a disappointment for me? Well, just let me know what you think down below. I personally think the whole idea of him using Alpha's face as a mask is awful, but him accepting Alpha's death, I think we can only decide if that's good or not by next episode and by the finale. He's not charged on anger right now, which is what created the water tower death. He's charged on honouring Alpha and this delusion that he's created himself. As far as this episode goes, I think that's a massive disappointment, but we just have to wait for episode 15 and of course the finale to see what damage he creates upon that. You'll hear more about that in my trailer breakdown for episode 15, but I don't think the water tower death is likely to happen to the extent I thought. If he's not charged on anger and this reckless rage, I just don't think it's going to happen to the massive extent that I thought. If we're talking about the comics, it happens at the very beginning of the issue, doesn't it? Gabriel just died straight away. So it's likely a very small character, or maybe even unnamed character, dies when Beta comes to Alexandria. And that would be at the very beginning of episode 15, so the fact that it's called the Tower might not hold any significance anymore, which I think it's kind of a cheap thing that the writer's done. Why call episode 15 the Tower at the exact point Gabriel's comic death would have happened? It's either a massive coincidence they knew they were doing it, or it really will happen. Talking of death, of course Ezekiel's some massive obvious death foreshadowing here, but when it's obvious, sometimes it doesn't happen. I think we are meant to believe that he does die because of his illness. He does have throat cancer. We saw so many things and obvious signs that Ezekiel will die, but I think the obvious suggestion is that the Commonwealth heal him, right? Well, I need to make it very clear there is no cure for cancer in the real world yet, so I doubt there's going to be one in the apocalypse, but is there some kind of treatment that Ezekiel could go through that the Commonwealth could give to him? That's really likely. But is there a certain stage that Ezekiel has got to if he's coughing this much and if he's got this badly into it? There's a good chance that he is untreatable. And I've said this from the start, I think they're showing us that Ezekiel will die to this illness, only for him to die another way, in fact quite a horrible way. On the way to meet Stephanie before meeting Princess, the characters see a birdcage with walkers trapped inside of it. Do you remember in the premiere? Ezekiel was talking to Daryl about being afraid of birds, scared of ostriches easily being able to eat him alive, eating his guts out. Then weeks before we actually saw that scene, in that orange animated sneak peek, Ezekiel was narrating over it, and we saw crows on a water tower. I mean, crows have always been a sign of death, but it's the fact that Ezekiel was narrating over it, and we saw crows on the water tower, and he was saying he's scared of birds, he's scared of ostriches eating him alive, eating his guts. And now we see a birdcage with walkers in it. It's all connecting. There's so much foreshadowing that has went on with Ezekiel, not just getting any death, but getting a pretty gruesome one. Now, I've said this before, it just doesn't make sense for Ezekiel to get this water tower death, but the foreshadowings have stated that he does. But of course, he's miles away from the Whisperer War. He's on the way to the Commonwealth. He's a very unlikely character to get it, so it's likely he gets a death similar to that, nearer to the finale, but it's one of those things, it's so obvious that he dies, so does he?
Do you hear me, you empty-headed slit?
Carol could have pictured Alpha saying any other few words, and she picked these. He's imagined her as some, well, every 1950s mum in a movie ever. The hallucination scenes with Alpha were okay for the first few minutes, but this scene was abysmal. It's just such a common theme with Carol, where she goes off, gets hurt, then comes back. Really, really tedious with Carol, and it was just boring. Her walking through the forest would have been enough. I think they overdid it with her getting trapped. It was really pointless. The scene with Eugene where he announced he was talking to someone from the Commonwealth was really good. I thought that was really well done. I think how the characters reacted were true and realistic reactions to who they are. And I think as a community it's good that they were skeptical after all these years. They were defensive. It was in this same scene that I thought Jerry was really awful. Every appearance he had in this episode was so cringy and actually abysmal. He had the brain and mannerisms of a 10-year-old when we saw him in this episode. I liked him in the caves because he was funny and stayed true and normal to the situation and to who Jerry is. But in this episode they gave him the personality of a excited Jack Russell. The point of Ezekiel's character is he's meant to be overdramatic and sometimes meant to be cringy, but in this episode they held on to the king's legacy way too much, and every scene mentioning it suffered because of it. It's almost like forced personalities all of a sudden have come out. And talking of force, we finally met Princess at the end of this episode, or her real name, Juanita Sanchez. The only thing you need to know about Princess is she starts the Commonwealth story arc, but that's all she does. She's a really irrelevant character after that point. In the comics after that, she's just there, and it's looking like that's what it's going to do in the show too. Hopefully they find her more purpose. Now, like I said at the beginning of this video, her first appearance was not great. It was cringy, but that's just her character. She's eccentric. The actress seems to grow more into her character in the next episode. But from what we've seen here, it's like an Orange is the New Black character trying to be Harley Quinn. It was almost too cartoony, and that's not good for The Walking Dead. If anything, it needs to stop doing that. It was cool to see the character's reaction to Princess, but apart from that, I just didn't really enjoy any of this scene. I think the Negan and Daryl scenes were not only unneeded, I think they were cool, but they shouldn't really have happened yet. I think Beta's reaction to Alpha's death was anticlimactic. I think how the writers went about his backstory in this episode was really good, even if at the end of it he did look like a literal clown. The episode as a whole was messy, but okay, had some good stuff happen in it. But more importantly, what do you think? Make sure you comment down below and let me know. Make sure you press the like button if you enjoyed this video, and of course if you did enjoy it, make sure you check out videos that are similar to this one. Make sure you check out my review for episode 13, where we of course discuss the future of the Rick Grimes movies, and what you may have missed in Michonne's final episode. And of course, make sure you subscribe, so that you're the first to hear about The Walking Dead and the first to see my videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.